Listen to me. Let me tell you something that might not make sense now, but it will, sooner or later. Leadership isn't about standing at the front of the line, telling people what to do. No, that's not it. Leadership is about influence, not authority. It's about how you carry yourself when nobody's watching, and how you hold your ground when everything is falling apart. You see, I've lived long enough to know that true leadership comes from within. It's not about flashy speeches or big promises. It's about character, resilience, and the ability to make decisions even when no one else can see the way forward. If you want to lead, you've got to know how to follow first. That's where it all begins. I know you're probably thinking, but I don't have the experience. I'm not like those people who have it all figured out. And you're right. You're not like them. But that's the beauty of it. Leadership isn't a birthright. It's a skill. And just like any other skill, it can be learned. It's like building a muscle. The more you work at it, the stronger it gets. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man named Jack, someone who didn't have a title, didn't have an office with a fancy chair, didn't have the respect that others thought they deserved. But Jack had something else. He had grit. The kind of grit that doesn't bend to pressure. He had a sense of purpose that cut through the noise. You see, Jack wasn't born a leader. In fact, he started at the bottom, like most people do. He worked as an assistant in a small construction company, just getting by, learning the ropes. But Jack wasn't content with just getting by. He was watching, learning, and figuring out what made the good leaders great. What was it about them? How did they make tough decisions with calm? How did they inspire others to follow them into difficult situations? One day, Jack found himself in a tough spot. The company had just taken on a big project, one that had to be completed within a tight deadline. It was a challenge, and the project manager was cracking under the pressure. People were starting to panic. You could see the anxiety on everyone's face, and no one knew what to do next. But Jack saw an opportunity. It wasn't about waiting for permission. He didn't stand back and wait for the project manager to come up with the answer. No. He quietly went to work, figuring out how to break the massive task into smaller, more manageable pieces. He communicated with the team, reassured them that they weren't alone, and helped everyone see that this challenge could be overcome step by step. Now, mind you, Jack didn't have a title. He wasn't the boss. But he led. He led with his actions, his words, his unwavering belief that things could be done. And you know what happened? The project turned out to be a success. People started looking at Jack differently. They respected him, not because of the title he didn't have, but because of the leader he was. It wasn't about the title. It was about the results and the courage to make decisions when others were frozen. I know. You're probably thinking, but that's not me. I'm not cut out for leadership. I'm just trying to get through my day. But here's the thing. You don't need to have a grand plan to be a leader. Leadership isn't about perfection. It's about moving forward despite the fear. Leadership is not about having all the answers. It's about knowing how to ask the right questions, having the humility to admit when you don't know something, and the courage to learn as you go. Let me tell you, the best leaders I've known, real leaders, aren't the ones who stand in front of a crowd and tell everyone what to do. The real leaders are the ones who quietly work behind the scenes, who pick people up when they've fallen, who stay calm in chaos, and who make the hard choices when no one else will. Leadership isn't about looking good on paper. It's about how you handle life when it doesn't go according to plan. Jack was just like you and me, ordinary, but he decided to become something more than ordinary. He decided that he would be the kind of person who could handle pressure, who could guide others through the storm. He didn't need a badge, a title, or anyone's approval. He just needed the belief that he could make a difference. And that's the thing. Leadership starts with a belief that you can shape your future, your team's future, and the world around you. You see, Leadership doesn't just come from what you do, it's about who you are when nobody is looking. When you're sitting alone with your thoughts, how do you respond? When you're faced with a tough decision, do you turn away or do you face it head on? Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Leadership is hard. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's also one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. It's the quiet victories that matter, the way you pick yourself up after failing, the way you continue even when everyone else has given up, and the way you help others believe in themselves when they feel like they have nothing left. Jack knew this, and as he grew in his role, the company began to notice. They gave him more responsibility, not because he was looking for it, but because he earned it. Leadership isn't handed out on a silver platter. You have to work for it. You have to prove that you're capable of handling more than just your own success. You have to prove that you can lead others to victory, no matter how tough the road is. But here's the kicker. Leadership doesn't always have a clear path. It doesn't come with a handbook. You'll make mistakes along the way. In fact, you'll make more mistakes than you care to admit. But it's how you respond to those mistakes that matters. Leadership is about turning failure into a lesson, about turning hardship into strength. It's about becoming someone who others can look up to, not because you have all the answers, but because you're willing to walk the path with them. Remember, leadership is not about power. It's about influence. It's about the small, everyday choices you make that set an example for others. It's about choosing to do the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it costs you something. It's about being the person who steps up when everyone else steps back. I know you've got doubts. I know you're thinking, this sounds too big for me. I'm just trying to survive, let alone lead. But let me tell you this, you've got everything it takes to become a leader. It starts with the simple things, the small acts of kindness, the willingness to stand up for what's right, and the courage to face your own fears. If you want to become a leader, you don't need to wait for someone to tell you. You don't need a title or a position. You just need to start. You need to take responsibility, even when it's not yours. You need to be the first one to step up, even when you're not sure how it will turn out. That's how you become a leader. Now, let's slow down for a second. I want you to take a deep breath and really think about what leadership means. I don't want you to think about the word in the abstract, something that sounds nice in theory but is hard to grasp. No, I want you to think of leadership as something you can touch, something you can feel in your bones. Leadership isn't just for the CEOs, the generals, or the political figures. Leadership is for the person who makes their way through the world, every day doing their job, supporting their family, keeping things together. Leadership isn't an act. It's a way of being. What do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. Think about Sarah. She works as a school teacher, teaching kids who are often dismissed by society, kids from broken homes, kids who don't always see a way out. Sarah, though, she's different. She doesn't just teach her students the ABCs or how to solve math problems. She teaches them to believe in themselves, to understand that they have the power to change their lives, no matter where they come from. But here's the thing. Sarah doesn't do this by giving speeches or lecturing. She leads by example. In her classroom, Sarah doesn't just talk about respect, she shows it. She listens. She asks her students about their day. She checks in with them, not just about homework, but about how they feel. She is there for them, day after day, even when the world doesn't seem to care about them. Sarah doesn't have a fancy title. She doesn't walk around with a badge that says leader on it. But Sarah is one of the strongest leaders I know because she understands the heart of leadership. It's about influence. It's about showing others that they matter. It's about helping others believe in themselves, even when they don't believe in themselves. You see, leadership isn't something you do to people, it's something you do with people. You're not a dictator, telling people what to do. You're a partner, walking alongside them, helping them grow, True leadership isn't about putting yourself above others. It's about serving those around you, lifting them up, and encouraging them to be the best version of themselves. When you look at people like Sarah, you begin to realize that leadership isn't about position, it's about action. It's about the daily choices you make, the small, consistent steps that build up over time. Leadership isn't always flashy or obvious. It's not about grand gestures. Most of the time, it's quiet. It's a gentle push. It's showing up every day, doing what needs to be done, and inspiring others to do the same. Let me tell you another thing. Leadership is also about sacrifice. It's about making the hard decisions when everyone else wants to take the easy route. You think about your responsibilities, not just your personal gain. There will be times when being a leader means putting the needs of others ahead of your own. It might be as simple as giving up your time to help a colleague, or it could be more significant, like standing up for what's right when the situation is difficult. The point is, leadership requires a willingness to step outside of your comfort zone. Take the story of Emma, for instance. Emma works in a corporate setting, managing a small team of people who rely on her to steer the ship. But Emma's team is struggling. They're behind on deadlines, morale is low, and there's a general sense of disarray. Emma could have pointed fingers at her team. She could have blamed them, said they weren't pulling their weight. She could have walked away, leaving the mess for someone else. But Emma didn't do that. Instead, she took a step back and examined the situation. She realized that her team wasn't the problem. They were overworked, under-resourced, and unclear about their roles. So instead of pointing fingers, she rolled up her sleeves. She reorganized the work, delegated tasks more effectively, and started having one-on-one meetings with her team members. But what really set her apart was the way she communicated. She was honest with her team about the challenges, but also positive about the opportunities for improvement. She led by example, offering her help whenever needed, and always being present when things got tough. And here's the thing, Emma could have easily ignored the issue. She could have stuck to the status quo. But leadership isn't about waiting for things to fall into place. It's about actively creating change, even when it's hard. Emma's willingness to sacrifice her time, her energy, and even her personal comfort to help her team succeed is what made her a great leader. It wasn't the title that made her a leader. It was the choices she made when things got difficult. Leadership also involves understanding your weaknesses and acknowledging them. A lot of people think that being a leader means you have to be perfect, that you can't show vulnerability. But the truth is, the best leaders are the ones who are humble enough to admit their mistakes and grow from them. When you admit that you don't have all the answers, you open the door for collaboration, for learning, for innovation. That's how you create a culture of leadership. Not by demanding perfection from others, but by showing them that mistakes are part of the process and that they can always learn and improve. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds great, but where do I start? Well, it starts right now. Right where you are. You don't need to wait for some grand moment to step into your role as a leader. You don't need to be given a title. Leadership starts with the way you show up every day. It starts with the small actions that add up over time. It starts with the way you treat others, the way you respond to challenges, the way you take responsibility for your actions, and the way you lead with integrity. There's a saying that goes, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And that's true, especially when it comes to leadership. The people around you are a reflection of your influence. Are you lifting them up? Are you helping them grow? Are you challenging them to become better? Because if you are, you're a leader, even if no one has told you so. And this, my friend, is where Stoic philosophy comes into play. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, and an emperor, said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Leadership just like goodness, isn't something you talk about. It's something you embody. It's about being the kind of person you want others to follow. It's about showing up every day with integrity, courage, and the willingness to lead, even when the path is uncertain. Now, let's talk about the practical side of things. Here's where you can start making real changes in your life. First, take ownership of your actions. Leadership starts with accountability. When you make a mistake, own up to it. When something goes wrong, don't point fingers. Look inward and see what you could have done differently. This sets the tone for others. If you're the kind of person who takes responsibility, others will start doing the same. Next, embrace challenges. Leaders don't shy away from difficult situations, they run towards them. When things get tough, that's when you show your true colors. Don't be afraid to tackle problems head on. When you do this, you show others that they don't have to run from challenges either. They can face them with confidence. And finally, don't forget to listen. One of the most powerful tools a leader has is the ability to listen. Listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about understanding people, reading between the lines, and knowing when to step back and let others take the lead. As a leader, you don't always have to have the answers. Sometimes, your role is just to provide the space for others to thrive. Look, leadership isn't easy, but I can tell you one thing for sure: it's worth it. Because when you step into your leadership role, you're not just changing the lives of those around you, you're changing your own. You're becoming the best version of yourself. You're creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond your immediate circle. So, what are you waiting for? It's time to lead.